The voices of the women who accompanied Jesus. Day 2, Tuesday. The voice of the woman bent double. You can read my story in Luke's Gospel in chapter 13. You can't begin to imagine what it feels like to stand here, to stand upright and to look at you. For 18 years I was bent over, only able to see the ground in front of me. I can't remember how it started, but one morning I got up off my mat. My body was twisted like my life. What could I do but carry on, finding firewood, pounding meal, looking after the children? The worst part was that I could never see the sky, and no faces. 18 years, and no eyes smiling at me, no face searching mine to see how I felt. I became silent, never looked at anyone, never touched anyone. But life was not all bad. I had the Sabbath, the day I went with the rest of the villagers to the synagogue. Some of them thought I shouldn't be there because of my deformity. They said I'd opened myself up to the invasion of demons. But I stayed. It was wonderful to hear the prayers and the scriptures, to hear about Abraham and Sarah. I still believed that God is a God of mercy and love. I trusted God to restore me to wholeness. And when I said, Amen, with the others, for a moment, I was part of the community. Then one day I heard a new rabbi was going to be there. Everyone was talking about him. And when I arrived, I couldn't get a place in the women's section. I was stranded in the aisle. I had to leave. But then someone whispered, He's calling you. My heart stopped. I hobbled forward. I felt his hands large and warm on my back. How long since someone had touched me? I was able slowly to pull myself up. The first hands to touch me, the first eyes to look into mine with love, they were the eyes of Jesus. God be praised, I said. And then he called me a daughter of Abraham. As I left the synagogue, I said it again and again to myself, a daughter of Abraham. As I began to follow Jesus, I realized that for me to be a daughter of Abraham meant that Jesus brought new life, not only for me. His message was also for others who'd been shut outside. There was that divorced woman, a Samaritan, whom Jesus met at the well and who he sent back into her village to share the good news. There was the woman from Syrophoenicia who pleaded for just the crumbs that fell under the table. The woman caught in adultery. There's the woman who bled for 12 years. Now, she followed Jesus, but no one's remembered her name, like no one's remembered mine. She was like so many others. Her life had been poured out, drained, her self-worth determined by how much she did for others. She did something brave, daring, and wonderful for us all. Instead of doing the nice thing, she reached out and grasped what she needed. She boldly reached out to touch the hem of the one she believed to have the power to heal. She didn't even ask. Some would call it foolishness. But God really does choose the weak. Despite her pain, her shame, her fear, she turned from what was taking her life away and instead reached out for what would give her life. What I saw in so many of Jesus' meetings with all of us whose dignity has been denied was a real repulsion at how that had happened and at the way kingdom values had been turned on their head. Being moved with pity is how the gospel writers describe that repulsion. But that doesn't really convey it. It was a gut thing, like he wanted to vomit, to spit it out. But his repulsion didn't lead to negativity or despair. It moved him to pour blessings on us, the bruised and broken. Jesus brought us to a point of new hope, new possibilities. He enabled us to dream of a different kind of world, and to know that all that is impossible for us is possible for God. And I know that all my encounters with brokenness, with injustice, with war or arrogance in any form must fill me with revulsion, so that I too minister prophetically. They must fill me too with an urgent longing to give birth to a new world. But Jesus' presence does more than provide a feel-good factor or affirmation. Every one of us who came into Jesus' presence bruised and broken left that presence transformed and blessed. Too often each of us is bent over by our own demons. Yet, when you're trudging through the valley, on your way to the cross, so burdened that you cannot stand up straight, you too can choose to go in, to trust God.